Hey, how's it going, everyone? Justin again, as always. Thanks for watching my channel. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about how to decide on what toolbox or service cart is right for you. I know it can be a difficult purchase to make for several reasons. One, cost, obviously. Two, spacing, depending on how much spacing you have available. And we're going to cover 6 different things that I actually had to think about prior to actually buying my most recent toolbox, which was the Cornwell, the 2-bay box, and how I reached that conclusion. As far as the service cart, I think I just picked it up because it was a smoking deal. But at any rate, that aside, as far as the toolbox, trying to decide on a tool storage for myself, some things that I had to think about along the way, I'm going to share with you in this video. There were 6 things that definitely stood out, and one of them was durability. Now, I've owned my fair share of cheap boxes. I have owned a handful of the more expensive boxes as well, even service carts, which we won't get into too much. But I've owned both. Cheap service carts, expensive service carts, cheap toolboxes, expensive toolboxes. So durability was definitely one of those #1 things that I really wanted. I didn't see a lot of durability in some of the cheaper brands, but agree to disagree. Okay, I know that some of you guys out there feel very strongly and passionate about other brands out there, whether it's Cobalt, Harbor Freight, etc. Hey, whatever works for you. If you feel like it's durable enough for you, fine. But reaching my decision and trying to figure out what was going to work for me, I felt like that the lesser brand names offered less quality, and I really was looking for a better and stronger quality. Now, had previously owning a Snap-on box, I was leaning towards Snap-on. Had never owning a Matco box, I was leaning towards Matco. And had never owning a Cornwell toolbox, I was leaning towards Cornwell. So those are the 3 that I was looking at the time frame when I was looking to make this big purchase. I was in it for the long run. I knew this is what I was going to be doing for a long time, and I knew that there was potential of being able to add on different accessories to it in the future. So durability and length of ownership for that specific toolbox was going to play a role. The second thing that I had to determine was size. Did I want a cart? Did I want a single bay, double bay? Did I want a Master Series? Obviously I couldn't have afforded a Mr. Big, but we'll get into affordability towards the end. But that, I had to decide how big of a box did I need. So I was looking at 2 bays. 2 bays was exactly what I was looking for, and that's what I started hunting for. The third thing would be drawer depth. I had a lot of issues with not just the inexpensive toolboxes that I had owned previously, like Bumblebee, which for those of you that don't know was the Home Depot DeWalt Special that was yellow and black. I also had a Craftsman one that was black and chrome, but was so narrow it teetered over and fell and broke and whatever. I think I covered that maybe in a previous video. If not, there's pictures on the Facebook page. But I needed something that had the depth. I needed to make sure that the tools were going to fit, that I wanted to store in specific drawers. Was it wide enough? How many of the longer drawers that I wanted a minimum of 2. I wanted to make sure that some of the other drawers were equal as far as height went, but the depth was still there and the width was going to be there. I had to decide how I was going to store my blow molded cases, how I was going to store my air tools. A lot of these things kind of came in, but you'll never really know what's going to fit until you actually get it in your possession and you can start playing with it a little bit. One of the things that I kind of did when I was hunting for this toolbox was I had my eyes kind of set on the Matco 4 or 5S and this Cornwell one. Well, the Cornwell one was a little bit more in my price range, and we'll get down to that in a little bit. But outside of that, I started making a little list. I don't know if you can see that, but I started drawing little lines and arrows leading to each drawer, kind of trying to predetermine where I was going to put some of the tools that I owned and how they were going to fit and how it was going to benefit me to have this 2-bay Cornwell toolbox over, say, like the Matco 4S or 5S. So I already did my research. There's dimensions on the back of the sheet. I started following through with it, trying to figure out if that was going to work for me. They had specials. Okay, so specials, we're going to talk about pricing here in a minute. I'm trying not to get too distracted. That was something that I was looking for, though. The fourth thing was accessories. So I didn't require a power bank, though it would have been nice. I didn't require a cabinet at the time frame, but it was nice to know that could be added on later. I didn't require any extra drawers to the side, but it was nice to know that that could have been done later. I didn't require a hutch, though I wanted one, so I tried to build one myself. I thought it came out okay, but still wasn't quite satisfied with it, so I removed it, cut it back down. I kept some of the plates, gave some of them to my employer. But there's lots of different add-on things that you can do to these higher name toolbox brands like Cornwell, Mac, Snap-on, and Matco. The problem that I ran into after purchasing this, and I'm just covering it because we're talking about it, was that Cornwell moved away from their previous tool company that was making the toolboxes for them and went with somebody else the following year. So now the hutches and other things that would go with this series toolbox would no longer fit because the dimensions were not the exact same. So now I ran into a situation where this toolbox is what it is and nothing can really be attached to that. So either I leave it the exact same or I get rid of it. I'm planning on keeping it. But this was one of the things that I didn't think about after I had purchased it, so I'm bringing it up now. The fifth thing came down to color. Everyone loves a different color. We'll use this one as an example. It's popping, man. It's popping. It's gloss black with a bright orange metallic chrome. It's got a nice work surface. It's got the bump stops. Hey, look, I don't know why I bought it. I just thought it looked freaking cool, so I picked it up. But you're gonna run into that too when you purchase your service carts and maybe even a toolbox. Maybe it's a spur of the moment thing, and there's a hot deal, which comes to our sixth thing. How much? Because that's a big determiner. So for me, there was a hot deal going on this toolbox, but little did I know that the reason why there was a hot deal outside of them making room for the new inventory coming in, later I would find out it's because they had switched toolbox manufacturers, and so I think they were just trying to get rid of the ones that they had to make room for the new wave of toolboxes. So that kind of messed me up. But at any rate, those are the 6 things that I had focused on when I was looking for a box for myself. Yours might be a little bit different, but 1 was durability, 2 was the size, like how big did I want it, 3 had to do with drawer depth and how many drawers, and were they tall, was the height there, was the depth there, was the width there, accessory options, and being able to add on later was definitely something that I had thought about. Color scheme, I liked the way that the color was, the black and chrome matched what it was that I wanted. Don't get me wrong, I loved the yellow and black, which was cool, and yes, they did offer different color options. There was a green, which I'd owned in the past. I had a Snap-on KRL series with the black Rhino-Line top, and it was a neon green. Loved that color, but for this new toolbox, I was trying to start fresh. I really liked the black and chrome look also because I didn't have to worry about cleaning it so often, so it still made the rest of the inside of the shop, it still made it look clean because you didn't see all these black smudges from diesel oil or regular oil or whatever all over the toolbox. You'd have to be really up close to see the smudges, and then I could just wipe them off every so often and it was fine. So I love black toolboxes for that reason alone. So I went with that. It also worked out great when it came to my stickers because I was like, well, I really want to put my LA King sticker on the truck, but I'm going to wash it. It's going to get faded with the sun. But I'll always have it if I stick it on my toolbox, so I put it on there. It's whatever. It was just one of those things that convinced myself of this is the one that I wanted. And then the amount that the box cost. So I think at that time I ended up picking this toolbox up for $3,400, and it came with a free generator, which I would turn around and sell the generator a year later for like, I don't know, $300 to somebody that really needed it. I think I had it posted for $500. He was without heat, living out of an RV. It was winter, so he said, all I got is $300, would you take it? And I was like, yeah, fine, whatever, come get it. But those are the things that I thought about when buying it. So how do you determine what toolbox you should get? Durability, look, I know that Snap-on has this really cool image of some big ass truck on top of their toolbox and how it supports it, and that you should buy it because it can support a big ass dump truck on it. Look, I didn't need that much durability. And yes, this is a miniature Matco tool truck. It's also a USB charging thing. I thought it was pretty cool. I used it a handful of times, and now it's just a computer ornament. But at any rate, you've seen the pictures, right? With Snap-on doing that. What I wanted to make sure of was that the depth of the drawers, or the width of the drawers was gonna be there. the depth as far as how deep the drawers were and how far back it went. If it was a single bay or double bay, would it fit in my work area? Because you're given a certain work area at the shop that you're in. Color scheme can be kind of big, so you have to think about that a little bit too. Okay, I know that a lot of people are like, color doesn't matter to me. I don't care if it's red, whatever, this, that, and the other. Look, I have a buddy that works at the Audi dealership, and though they're looking for talented mechanics and automotive technicians, they're very specific about who they hire, and one of the questions they ask you in the interview is, what color is your toolbox? They don't ask you because they want to know what your favorite color is. It was because the owner had a thing for technicians that had all black boxes or black and chrome boxes, or like this, a black with an orange. He wanted black boxes because he wanted to make sure that any customer or any personnel that walked through the shop that saw anything in any bay, it was going to be a black box, and he didn't have to worry about having all the smudges and whatnot. So he was very particular about having a very clean shop and keeping that clean mentality. So if you didn't have a black box, next interviewee, bring him in. Let's find out the next guy. So that played a role in it for him, and luckily he had an all black Matco Forest box. He found out later from his cousin who got him the job that was a foreman. Yeah, man, the owner is very strict on what color your toolbox is. He likes black. He don't care if you got the shiny metallic chrome stuff or it's just regular chrome, but it has to be a black box. The main color of the box has to be black. So that helped him actually to get the job. And he didn't know that going in. It wasn't a question that he asked his cousin going into the interview, and his cousin might have forgotten about it, but that was a determining factor, believe it or not. Just something to think about. Now I know a lot of guys are gonna be in the comments saying, hey man, Harbor Freight works for me, yada yada yada. They're now offering black boxes, blue boxes, red boxes, etc. They didn't have that during my time frame. They only had the red. The red didn't work for me. I didn't want a red box. Also, it being Harbor Freight, I checked it out. I didn't personally care for the Harbor Freight structure on their toolboxes. I felt that they were a little bit flimsy. That's just me. That's my opinion. It might work for you. That's great. If you're a DIY or a weekend warrior, great. If you use it in a dealership or you use it at an independent shop and you've been using it for 15 years, great. It wasn't what I wanted, so I didn't go that route. As far as spending way too much money on Matco, Cornwell, Snap-on, or Mac, again, it comes down to it's your guys' money. You do what you want. But I know that some of these deciding factors can come into play, and as a result, getting away from the whole cost of everything, you have to realize that Harbor Freight's drawer dimensions, drawer width, drawer depth, height is going to be way different than Cobalt. Cobalt is going to be way different than Craftsman. Craftsman is going to be way different than DeWalt. DeWalt's going to be pretty close, but pretty much different than the Milwaukee. I saw them both. They were pretty close as far as drawer depth, width, height, the structure, the inputted power bank. It's going to be different than Husky. Husky's going to be different than Mac. Mac's going to be different than Snap-on. Snap-on's going to be different than Matco. Everything is going to be different. It's what works for you, and you won't know it until you start looking at it, which is why I like the fact that Snap-on actually does go from shop to shop with the rock and roll cab, and you get on there and they have all the toolboxes on display that you can actually fully check out first. I like the fact that on the Cornwell truck and the Matco tool truck that come by, they have a couple of the newer toolboxes on there for you to physically check out first and on your own, so you can physically touch it, move it, feel it, check it out, see what the height is, see if the bench is high enough, because that was another problem for me, is it seemed like a lot of the toolboxes were really short. And I didn't want to type way down here. I wanted to type fairly straight, or when I sat in a chair, I wanted my arms to be almost perfectly 90-degree angle, so everything has its own personal fit and fitment for that individual. So it might be different for you. You might not care about any of the things that I'm talking about. It might not be relevant to you whatsoever. But a lot of these things that I'm bringing up as my opinions and personal thoughts behind it has to do with a 9 to almost 10-year career as an automotive mechanic. And I've been doing it since 2010 consistently. There was probably a year and a half gap here and there. So probably about 8 or 9 years-ish. And And then before that, yeah, I helped out. I changed a few parts on this, that, and the other. I didn't know much about what I was doing at the time. I was just parts replacing. But that's a completely different topic. As for right now and how long I've been in it and how many service carts and toolboxes I've went through, guys, I think I've gone through quite a few toolboxes and service carts to know a little something and to be able to share my opinion about it with you to hopefully help you make that decision, because Christmas time is the time that these things go on sale. So whether or not you're looking at the Harbor Freight one, the Husky one, the DeWalt, the Milwaukee, the Cobalt, the Craftsman, if you're getting on the tool truck and they're throwing hot deals out because they're trying to get rid of old inventory and get new inventory, let this kind of be like a little reference guide for you. Hopefully this helps you out. I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks as always. Cheers to those of you that have your beers. I hope you're enjoying your work week, and we'll see you next time. Deuces.